Good afternoon, everyone. Our presentation today will be focused on the well-known airline Southwest. Our team has identified a problem that the airline is currently facing, and we would like to leverage this time to walk through that problem, as well as the analysis and our suggested recommendations. To get started, the team and myself would like to start by introducing ourselves. My name is Amanda Perez.
I'm Davy Bunton.
I'm Michaela Fahey.
I'm Danae Lobenmeyer.
And I'm Alexandra Paez.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. To provide a quick preview on what the team will be covering and presenting today, we'll first kick it off with a brief introduction on Southwest Airlines. We will then introduce our problem, go into detail within our analysis, and conclude by presenting our suggested recommendations for Southwest. As I'm sure many of us are pretty familiar with Southwest in terms of who they are and the services that they provide. However, the team and I felt like it would be pretty beneficial for us to walk through some of the history and provide additional context on Southwest. Southwest Airlines was incorporated in 1971. They were incorporated in Texas, and at this time, they were only working within 3 major cities: Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio. And while working within these 3 major cities, they were only operating with 3 aircrafts. If we fast forward to 1989, Southwest was considered a major airline at this point of time. That they received this milestone when they exceeded the $1 billion revenue mark. If we jump over to 2014, this is when Southwest became an international airline, which was a huge milestone for the company in terms of sales and growth. If we jump over to 5 years, which puts us in 2019, within this year, Southwest operated over 4,000 flights daily during its peak season. In addition to this, within 2019, Southwest also began to serve the Hawaiian Islands for the very first time. Jumping 1 year later, that puts us in 2020. And within 2020, that is when the COVID-19 pandemic was in full effect. Similar to the other airlines, Southwest was negatively impacted by the pandemic and the new protocols that had to be taken into place. And as well, individuals were not traveling as much as we were basically told not to. Now, this leads us to the problem that we're currently facing within Southwest. There's a higher number of flight cancellations as the airline's attempting to adjust to the new normal affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The cancellations are overall impacting the customer satisfaction. Now, the root cause of this problem is primarily driven by the shortage of employees. During the pandemic in 2020, the airline offered buyouts and early retirement packages for its employees due to the impacts. If you fast forward to today, within 2021, the airline is trying to adjust reoperating after such a tough year, which includes less employees. I will now pass it over to Danae, who will go into a deeper dive within our analysis. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I am going to jump into the first part of our analysis regarding Southwest staffing issue, which has resulted in their flight cancellations. To really understand how their staffing issue came to be, it's important to go over what caused their workforce to dwindle. To do that, I want to compare the demand for flights in 2019 to 2020. To do so, we'll be looking at the number of total annual airline passengers Southwest had on board their flights. In pre-pandemic times, or 2019, Southwest flew a total of 162.7 million passengers, and during their peak season in 2019, they had roughly 4,000 flights daily. Now, during the first year of the pandemic, or 2020, that number of total annual passengers dropped to 67.8 million. Almost 100 million less passengers were reported annually. This is a significant drop in the number of passengers, which indicated a serious reduction in demand for flights. As a result of the decrease, Southwest needed to cut their costs. And we all know that a business's most costly expense are their employees. In an attempt to cut costs, Southwest urged their employees to either take buyouts or extended time off. These buyouts included the potential of 1 year of pay, a year of company paid health insurance benefits, and 4 years of flight privileges if tenured employees took an early retirement. The time off package included 6, 12, or 18 months off, and employees would receive 50% of their pay along with health and flight benefits. Almost 17,000 employees were interested in the buyout or time off program, which would help reduce Southwest's expenses and also would allow Southwest to avoid terminations or furloughs without pay or severance. However, now that demand is starting to pick up again, it's hard for Southwest to staff their flights. I am now going to pass it over to Dewi so she can go into the second part of our analysis.
Thanks, Danae. To analyze this problem further, it's important to understand how many employees Southwest had prior to the pandemic compared to numbers now. By the end of 2019, there were 60,800 employees. This was just a few months before COVID became a significant concern and prior to any shutdowns or regulations. By the end of 2020, there were only 56,500 employees, which is a 7.07% decrease from the previous year. Now, there are 54,448 employees, which is a 3.63% decrease from last year. With this data, it's easier to see the significance of the buyout and time off offers that the employees received. The 4,400 that were interested in buyouts is about 8% of the total employees, and the 12,500 who wanted time off comes out to about 24% of the total employees. From this information, deductive reasoning can be used to understand the employees responded to these ideas well. What's a good way of encouraging employees to leave the company without having to lay them off? It's buyouts and paid time off. In the next slide, I'll further expand on the concepts of buyouts, early retirement, and furloughs, and their implications on individuals who are affected by it. What's interesting about buyouts and early retirement is that they actually sound pretty good based off of the positive responses from Southwest employees who would want to keep working when you're offered this deal. Unfortunately, these offers could potentially not be in the employee's best interest. In fact, individuals could be shorted on their benefits. For example, people can't collect Social Security until specific ages. At 62, the earliest possible age to collect Social Security, individuals are not even receiving their benefits at full capacity. They would be shorted about 30%. If individuals wanted to collect Social Security in full, it would be necessary to wait until 67 years old and 72 to collect around 120%. It's apparent, that if employees retire earlier than they were planning or expected to, they would have to take into consideration this aspect, which could cause a great deal of stress. Hopefully, if these individuals planned out their retirement funds well, they could be all set. However, that has an age requirement as well. If individuals feel as though they needed to withdraw from their traditional 401k retirement or Roth 401k before the age of 59 and a half, they're subjected to being penalized 10%. On top of this, some individuals don't even want to withdraw at 59 and a half and would prefer to keep growing their retirement funds for years after. So another method the company used to cut costs were to implement furloughs, which is a version of time off. In this type of situation, employees didn't need to be laid off and the organization didn't need to find a replacement. But this does cause stress and questions the level of job security an employee has at Southwest. So although these methods proved to be helpful for the company to cut costs when they needed to save, Southwest is now attempting to grow their workforce once again. So now I'll pass it off to Michaela to go over the recommendations. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to talk about two of the recommendations that we have for Southwest. So one way that Southwest can increase its number of employees is by also increasing its recruiting efforts. As we talked about earlier, there are fewer flight attendants in the industry at the moment due to buyouts and early retirements. Keeping this in mind, Southwest should try to attract new flight attendants into the industry in order to meet the staffing demand, as well as trying to prevent staffing-related flight cancellations. Now, it's important to note that Southwest currently does offer internships for different college students, but it can do a lot more to raise awareness about what Southwest has to offer. A couple things that Southwest can do is it can send more of its representatives to college career fairs to let students know about different career opportunities that Southwest has to offer. Additionally, Southwest can launch different social media campaigns to raise awareness about the company, careers, and different opportunities that it has to offer. Now, it's important that this is a long-term solution because students have to be at least 20 years of age and complete a training program before they can actually start working for Southwest. Now, keeping this in mind, it will help to resolve the staffing issue over time. Now, this leads me into our next recommendation that will result in a shorter term solution. So what we recommend is that Southwest try to attract their recently retired employees. Now, they want to do this because they won't have to spend much time retraining the staff because they know what they're doing. They were recently in the workforce. So what they can do to attract these employees is offer a couple different options. They can offer flexible work hours, a choice of flights and locations that they can choose from, as well as higher pay and AM and PM reserve options. Now, these are great because it helps these employees keep the seniority that they had before they left the company previously and get to have a say in what they're doing and when. Next, I'm going to pass the presentation off to Alex, who's going to talk about our remaining recommendations.
Thank you. So our third recommendation is employee incentives. So providing employees with incentives will help motivate new people to apply to Southwest and also engage new employees to perform well. So some of these incentives include signing bonuses, welcome packages, upgraded hotel and meal accommodations, and then increased seniority. So the first one, signing bonuses. This provides new employees with extra money and an extra bonus right off of the bat, which will then motivate them to perform well and then will provide them the eagerness to learn. The second piece goes along with signing bonuses is welcome packages. So a welcome package will help make the new employee feel welcomed and really a part of the team instead of just being another number added to the number of employees that Southwest has. Our third recommendation under employee incentives is upgraded hotel and meal accommodations. So for any of you that travel and work long hours in unfamiliar places, this would be very important because you would want to have that comfort of being able to go to a nice hotel and have a good meal and feel energized and rejuvenated for your next flight or your next assignment. So this may seem like a small change, but this will overall improve the productivity of these employees. The fourth employee incentive would be increasing seniority, allowing employees that have hit the 10 to 15 year mark will reward them with the ability to choose those less desirable shifts and to not choose those less desirable shifts and to work better hours. But this will also help new employees and motivate them and influence them to hit that 10 to 15 mark. So our next recommendation is customer incentives. So with customer incentives, we have, allowing the Southwest to provide customer incentives, it eliminates stress and the frustration of these customers that have had their flight canceled. So some of these customer incentives includes flight credit, flexible accommodations, and additional flight cancellation assistance. So the first one, airline credit, we recommend that Southwest provide half of the credit back to the customer for their flight that was canceled. So for example, if I had a flight that was canceled, Southwest would provide half of that credit for any future flights, which will then alleviate some of the frustration that customers are sensing when their flight gets canceled. The third piece is flexible accommodations. So when a customer has their flight canceled, we want to provide the customer with multiple options and different flight opportunities, so they could pick and choose from any flight within that day to reschedule to. Our last customer incentive is additional flight cancellation assistance. So when a customer has their flight canceled, the first thing is they want to talk to a customer representative, figure out when's the next flight that they could take to their destination. And they want to make sure that they get this done quickly because their stress is high, their frustration is high. So our recommendation is to reduce that callback time from 1 to 2 hours to 15 minutes. This will provide the customer's assistance a lot quicker than having them wait around to try to figure out which flight they're going to next. So all those recommendations will help provide a sense of ease to the customer and will help the company as a whole to improve this problem that they're currently facing today. And in the following slides, we have our citations. Here's our first slide, and we have our second slide of citations here. And thank you for listening to our presentation today.